So, look what I found. A nice little bag of Beet Detroit Supreme seeds. So when we're thinking about planting gardens, we have to have a plan on where we're getting started. And that plan first involves what kind of seeds are we going to need for planting. Now the cost of this bag of seeds is $2.79. But take a look here. Today, there's a savings of 25% off. So calculating that discount, that is math. And then some other specs that are included in planting and preparing for your garden is they need to be harvested. It takes at least 60 to 65 days for that harvest time. So the depth, in other words, how deep are you going to plant those seeds? That's part of measuring. You need to make sure the depth is at least 1/2 an inch deep into the soil before you begin to plant those seeds. Let's see what else we can find here in terms of math at the nursery. Again, we're here today at Oakland Nursery with some East Linden Summer Experience students. And here I have with me is
Zadaya
and
Sayana.
And they're gonna help me do something called subottizing. Now I've got a really pretty plant to show you, and I want you to look at the plant and tell me how many blooms you see. You ready?
Yeah.
This one.
3.
3? How did you know it was 3?
Because I was looking with my eyes.
Yes. You didn't have to count, you just knew, right? Now we are still gonna count so we can confirm that there are 3. Let's count together. That's 1, 2, 3. So that's 3. Great job. Give me a high five. Yes. So if you're thinking about planting your own garden, remember there are a few simple math concepts that are wrapped up in gardening, like measurement, time, the size and shape of your garden, the square footage that garden is going to cover. Perhaps a visit to Oakland Nursery will inspire you to want to create your own garden. As always, thank you for joining us today with Math Everywhere. And as always, math is everywhere.
I can say it's truly magical. They love the taste of fresh produce just from the plant. Some of my students don't even know where some food comes from the grocery stores, so they learn so many things when they garden.
So they really want to be a part of it. Some of them at first, they're really excited about it, but then there are others that say, I really want to know a little bit more about this, so it's more than just looking and glancing at it. It's like, how can I be a part of this? Because I've seen it go from being just a seed, and now it's growing, and I want to be a part of that process.
So they really take care of everything and do it all and know how to do it all, and they have a lot of pride in that, in showing whoever comes into our classroom what they do and how they do it and what they've grown.
I think it's really cool that they're learning how food is actually grown now, because so many places are using all hydroponics, and so it's really opening their mind to see different ways that food can grow.
Learning how to grow is really important, and when you see it in person, it's a lot different than just reading about it or seeing pictures of it. And taking the fresh produce that you grow and then being able to cook it and taste it in your classroom, then potentially going home and requesting it at home, I think is pretty powerful of an impact.
It tastes different because it's more fresh at the moment, and also when you freshly pick it and just go wash it real quick and then eat it, it's crunchy and delicious. But when you buy it from the store, it doesn't taste normal.
This is the best salad I ever tasted. This salad is so much yummier than my mom's own salad.
Having like a fresh lettuce that you just picked is really, it has its unique taste.
It was my first time ever trying bok choy and kale, They looked pretty weird at first. When my friends told me to try it, I just took a bite and it was super good.
Oh, it's so cute because they really have a new taste when they try like tomatoes from the grocery store. I mean, they don't taste the same as fresh from the vine, and just their brains are exploding. Like normally they want to ask for ranch and they just pop it without it, so that's amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm co-chair. Yeah, you know Sean we looking at.
Good evening, everyone. Today is May 13th, and this is the Academic Facility Alignment Committee. Welcome, everyone. Please call the roll.
Mr. Dare?
Present.
Mr. Kennedy?
Present.
Dr. Pierce?
Present.
Ms. Britt?
Present.
Ms. Turner?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all so much for being here. We are on our agenda this evening. We will have the approval of the minutes. We're going to continue our learning and take a little bit of a deeper look into some of our program layer 2 programs to learn more about them. And then we're going to have a recap of the educational visioning sessions. And then we're going to have just a couple updates on our survey and our school visits. And then that will be our meeting tonight. It will be full. We'll be talking the whole time. Is there a motion to approve our agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
And there's a second. Without any objections, we'll go ahead and approve that agenda. Great. All right, so our first item is to approve our minutes from April 15th. You believe that we have them, yes, under your packet, you have those. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any changes, any discussion? Seeing none, without objection, we will go ahead and approve those minutes.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in to the work. We are going to have, again, our deputy superintendent kind of lead us through this discussion and dialogue. It's going to be a little bit less formal than before. There's going to be no PowerPoint, but we have a lot of handouts, and we would love your feedback on these handouts because these are, again, things that are going to go into our community packets. So, you know, making sure that you're not only using them during this meeting, but with that critical eye of, can our community understand these, right? And so again, remember the work that we're doing, the big work is around educational visioning, but what we've been talking about the past couple meetings is understanding the layers of the programming. So we started with layer 1, which was what is required by the state, things that we have to do. things that are required to be funded. We started talking about a little bit about layer 2s and layer 3s last time in a very broad context. And so we're going to continue with our learning into layer 2. And remember, layer 2 are things that are community, it's a value of our community. Things that our community expects to be funded, even though it's not part of that requirement list. And we have things on there that we have to decide, is it going to still be in layer 2 or is it a layer 3 service? And so this is important because as we talk about ed specs and what we're designing for our standard building, we need to know what we're designing for. But remember, this is also a conversation that leads us into other areas of, that we'll be discussing, especially at the board level, around funding and budgets and things of that nature. And when we talk about what do we really need to be investing in to ensure that we are getting the best return on our investment for our student outcomes, we really need to focus in on those layer 1 and 2 services. So we're going to be talking about these layers not just in academic programming, but also in more of a funding finance return on investment. So in the fall, we will actually probably be working with our ETRM committee to do some joint meetings around that work so that we can all start making sure that our academic program is leading our budgetary decisions. So I am going to turn it over to Catherine Mosier, our Deputy Superintendent, to get us started in item 3.1.
Good evening, and thank you to the committee. I have invited tonight representatives from multiple departments, and you're going to hear from some school leaders as well. And so we will certainly not be presenting on every program that we would consider in layer 2, but we're going to get started tonight, and we'll come back at future meetings with additional information. So to kick us off in this discussion, we are going to hear first from Dr. Tara Baker about our early childhood programs, and specifically she's going to talk about the facility requirements and facility considerations that we would want the committee to keep in mind related to pre-K. Dr. Baker.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here today to talk about early childhood. As you can see from the handout, we have 131 classrooms, and I can talk to you about that are licensed by the state every year, and there are specific requirements for those classrooms. One requirement is that there's 35 square feet per floor space from wall to wall per student. So that means about 600 square feet is the minimum class because we have 20 students in our typical classrooms. It doesn't have to have a bathroom inside the classroom, but of course that is definitely the most desirable for our little ones. And if it can't be in the classroom, then the classroom could be in close proximity to the restroom. That helps as well because we have to stay within ratio. So if a staff member is taking students out to use the restroom, then the ratio changes. Additionally, we need 60 square feet of per student of usable outdoor space. So about 1,200 square feet. All of our buildings, we have that, but ideally, it would be preferable if there were a secondary primary playground that a lot of our buildings have. As part of the facilities plan, they're updating the playgrounds, and a lot of the playgrounds, they're putting a secondary fenced-in playground outside for the primary grades. That would be early childhood and kindergarten. And the only other requirement in terms of that is that there are natural barriers or a fence to prevent the students from going to the street or being endangered or something like that.
And for pre-K, just so everyone is level set, and you can explain this a little bit more to us, this pre-K itself is not governed by Department of Education and Workforce. It is actually the Department of Children and Youth that comes out, does the inspections. It's a completely different system. And why pre-K again is in layer 2 or 3 is because it is not part of the K-12 that is paid for through like our educational kind of dollars. So we budget this out separately in order to make this tuition free for our families. Some school districts do have pre-K, but families pay tuition, and that's the difference here. So we are investing in this because we know this strategy is something that is very important to our 3rd grade reading. So we know that our pre-K kids do better when they get to kindergarten all the way up to 3rd grade. But it's kind of, we've invested in it because we know that we have monitoring data that shows that it's working. But just maybe explain a little bit about why, when you explain all those things about the square footage and the fences and stuff, that isn't for kindergarten. This is like, because it's completely different, a set of rules. And then we also, you have the step up to quality on here and the stars. Maybe explain that a little bit, because that is an additional layer. And then also maybe, you did this a little bit last time, but talk about how we currently have pre-K set up. Because we kind of have 2 models in our district, between it being in our elementary schools, and then we have a standalone site too.
Okay, so yes, pre-K is not required, it's not compulsory for typical pre-K or gen ed pre-K. Special needs preschool is though. And so the way that we are funding we have grants from the City of Columbus and from Department of Children and Youth, DCY. Now they separated from ODU, and then so that's they have awarded us grants, and we utilize a braided funding model and to pay for the typical pre-K. And as part of that, to be licensed to operate, we have to meet certain requirements. And DCY comes out, they have specialists that come out every year and then inspect our classrooms to make sure that we are adhering to all of those requirements. And then there's an additional layer for step up to quality. So you have licensing, you can be a licensed program, but not have a step up to quality rating. The step up to quality rating has then additional requirements that we meet in order to have that higher standard of rating. And along with that higher standard of rating comes more money. So the higher your rating, then the larger grant money that you're afforded. Did I address everything? Okay.
School-based versus.
Thank you. So yes, so we have currently the 65 locations. So we have one of those locations is at Linden Park, and it is all pre-K. So the whole building is pre-K, and then we also have partnerships with Head Start, and so we have some Head Start classrooms in there as well, and that's part of the model that we have with the City of Columbus and the grant. And then the other locations, we have 2 classrooms at Franklin County Board of DD. They are in that building, but they are our classrooms, so they're our staff, and we are responsible for them. And then the rest of our program are located in elementary schools across the district.
So are we asking questions now? Okay. So thank you for providing the snapshot of our pre-K information. I think our parents would want to really be concerned and know the difference between how does my child get full day pre-K versus half day pre-K, and if there's a way that we could probably indicate the regions that these 65 sites are located in. Because as a parent getting this information, I think it's great that there's 2,200 students in it, but is my child one of those 2,200? And how can I get my child in?
So thank you for that. And I did have handouts of those, and it is located on our early childhood website. So we have that.
So is it possible?
Full day,
that-
half day, I'm
yes.
sorry. Yes, okay.
Let's put the link on there, because I'm thinking, are we giving you feedback on these? So you
Yes.
can, yes.
Okay.
So
And-
let's put the link for that information on there.
Okay. And when we're talking about a full day versus, so The general ed classrooms, the inclusion classrooms are full day. They're considered, even the inclusion classroom is considered a general education classroom because the majority of the students in there are general education. So it's usually 12 gen ed students and 8 special needs students. And then the other full day, half day, and itinerant services, those are special needs programs, and so their least restrictive environment, that's determined by like their IEP team. So when a student is determined to have a disability and they have, they're evaluated and then they have
Go ahead. No, finish. I have a question.
No problem. And it's determined that they, should receive services. Then the IEP team meets. They review the data from the ET, if it's initial, they would review that data from that ETR and have conversation, and the parent is involved in that as part of the IEP team. And then they determine what the least restrictive environment is for the student at that time.
So this would be my recommendation as well. Instead of putting the continuum of our LREs in this lower spot, share some of that information in terms of if you would like to learn more about placement of your child in this program or a child that you are the caretaker of, because the average person that's, and I'm assuming we're giving this out to multiple community members?
Yes, these are just to remind everybody, when we go out as board, as committee members, when we're talking about this work, having these at a glance so people can see and understand what these programs are. And eventually, I think we should have them either color-coded or something with what layer we have assigned it to. But it's, so it's quick information. I think she's right about having maybe, because we do have a lot of this on the web, but like a link.
Because this component right here, the continuum, that just seems very high level. Like you have to do a deeper dive to, okay, what's general education? What's the difference? What's this? The stuff above it is very straight to the point. It gives me good information. So let's figure out what we can put in that lower portion and include the link.
Dr. Baker, oh, sorry, go ahead.
How many of the pre-K students are special education students?
Approximately 800.
Okay. So even though we're not required to provide pre-K, because we do, am I understanding what you just said, that they go through the same like IEP process as a K through 12 student, essentially? Okay. Cool. Those are the questions that I have. Just to piggyback off what Dr. Pierce said, maybe instead of a link, a QR code, since we're handing this out to people, because that's scannable by their phone, and people don't type in links, so.
And I was going to piggyback off the piggyback. Even maybe some folks know what LRE means, maybe they don't. So just being careful of using acronyms or defining it before we shorten it.
Great points.
And for those thank you for this information, Dr. Baker. For those pre-K classrooms that are embedded within the school, do parents have access to transportation for those, or how can parents get access to transportation?
So our special needs students get transportation at the pre-K level. Our typical students do not. So parents transport or daycares.
Going back to maybe understanding how our pre-K students are utilizing space in buildings. So for the programs that, which most of them are, that are in our elementary schools, do our pre-K students also use the facilities like the lunchroom and the gym and the library? Do they kind of act like, because they are part of the school community, they go to assemblies, like they are embedded within the community? Is that typically how that works?
Yes, that's exactly how it works. So yes, they have access. They do not receive unified arts, but their teacher is able to take them to the gym to utilize it when it's available. But most of them do have, a lot of them do eat in the cafeteria. They eat breakfast in the cafeteria. They eat lunch in the cafeteria.
And when we have our centers, when we have like at Franklin County and Linden, do those centers then also have things like libraries and space like a multi-purpose gym? Would that be something we would typically want for baseline programming in a pre-K environment?
Absolutely. So yes, Linden Park has a sensory room, a library space, outdoor playground, all of those things. And then Franklin Park also has all of those things as well. So yes, that would be like baseline that they would have those different spaces, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and that experience. So they are getting a school experience for the most part.
And then my last question is around what the adults need for the space, because in pre-K classrooms, there's actually multiple adults in one room. It's not just one teacher. And so when we think about setting up pre-K, is it any different from what we heard last meeting, where it would be great if we had separate rooms where we could meet with families or do IEPs, or do we need separate napping spaces? Or like, what are just some things, like from the adult perspective, classroom management perspective, like if we were creating ed specs for pre-K specifically, what might be different than what we heard from more of the general ed?
I think that, yes, so usually there are 2 to 3 adults in the classroom as well. And so oftentimes space is tight, so if having adult space is great, it would be nice ideally how some of our buildings have those, they built them, I think it's tutor rooms in between. That would be a nice space for like when someone's having a lunch break, or additionally just quiet space, parent meetings, or sometimes we invite parents in to see what's happening with their student, and sometimes we would like for the student to see that the parent is there, but sometimes we would like for the student to not see that the parent is there. So I definitely think that those would definitely be opportunities. And again, as I said, like having a bathroom, a dedicated bathroom in there. A lot of them are newly potty trained. Some of them are not potty trained. And so having that space in the room, like I said, it would be beneficial, especially with keeping the ratio and safety and everything for the students.
And they do nap. Our pre-K students, that is part of the program, they do take naps, so they need cots and cot space.
Yes, they need cots and cot space, and that's part of that requirement with the square footage. So we need to be able to have 20 cots out. So each student gets their own cot, they're not shared, and then the staff still needs to be able to move around the space. So that's definitely something. And then they need to have a space to store the cots.
So just full disclosure, I'm a pre-K parent, so I know what that space looks like in that room, and yeah, that cot storage, it's like right in the hallway. So yeah, it's serious. Okay, all right. Any other questions about pre-K facility needs, just the program? Any other comments on the handout?
So pre-K is 3 and 4-year-olds, or just 4-year-olds?
That's a good question. So 3-year-olds, if they're special needs, can participate in pre-K, and then they can actually, some of them they can stay until they're like 5, most of them, and then they transition to kindergarten. But for Gen Ed pre-K, it's 4-year-olds. I will add that this year with the kindergarten law changes, we have made some allotments for students who were caught in that where they weren't going to be 5 to go to kindergarten or whatever. So we are allowing those families to stay in pre-K for if they would like to return for an additional year.
Because you just mentioned that, quick question. Do we keep track of how many pre-K students we turn around, or how many are waitlisted?
So we do. I can get that information back to you. We do. We track them. I track their KRA and all of that, so I can get that.
And then, Dr. Mosier, if we could also provide the committee members with that information, because I think that would be important as we go out into the community. I know at one point our number in Franklin County was around 800 plus that were waiting on opportunities to be enrolled in pre-K. So the more we're able to tell the story that our district is providing this additional intervention, resource, and support for our families, and that the need is there, the better it is for, you know, just what our district is doing overall to educate the community.
Are there any, just to piggyback off that a little, are there any preference for, as it relates to the wait list, for families that already have a child in the district, right? Like, so their sibling is now starting pre-K?
No, we don't currently have that, but we do have a priority determination for students, like, so students who have special needs, like that, those, you know, there's certain criteria, students who are lower socioeconomic, like receiving SNAP benefits. So there is a questionnaire the families fill out, and then based on their answers, then there is some priority in that. But we don't currently do priority because due to siblings.
Is that priority something that we are required to do, or something that we choose? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to add that, could we do that, or are we not allowed because of legal things?
Our current priority is something that we are required to do.
Yeah. All right, any other questions?
Can you just reference real quick what creates the priority?
ESL, special needs, low socioeconomic status.
And it's the grants, right?
Yes.
It's the
According
grant
to
criteria.
Thank you.
Okay.
What, do we take any Title 20 for pre-K at all?
We do not.
I will say that last year, ETRM did a really deep discussion more about the funding, and we were actually talking about the Title 20 and what, if we did do that, what kind of a headache that would be, and like, we aren't physically set up for it.
We aren't.
Our buildings aren't set up for it, because it has different requirements about how they have to come in, and parents have to actually come in and check in. So again, if it's something we wanted to do, though, that would be an ed spec, because we would need a place for our parents to do a separate entrance to come in. They have to physically come in and type something on a computer. They physically have to come in and pick up, and our schools are not set up for that during all the dismissal and chaos, right? So again, if it's something we wanted to do, we would have to think about building design. But anyway, ETRM did that, so we can pull that video. Carl, can you make a note of that? Find that ETRM meeting and make sure committee members have it, to take a deeper dive more into the money side of it. Awesome. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We are going to take a big leap now from pre-K to adult education, and welcome Dr. Klein and Janet Routsong, who are going to, in a similar manner, connect to the one-pager that you see, and talk to you about experiences that adults in the adult and community education program currently have, given that the program is currently in what had been originally constructed as an elementary school. Dr. Klein.
Thank you so much, Deputy Superintendent Catherine Mosier. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time this evening and allowing us to speak to you. My name is Michelle Klein, and I'm here with my colleague, Janet Routsong, who serves as the Interim Director of Adult and Community Education. We're here to share with you an issue that directly impacts the success of our community: the need for a larger, more appropriate facility for our adult and community education program. Our program is currently known as ACE. Most of our programming occurs at the former Hudson Elementary School on Lexington Avenue and is funded through tuition and grants. The only investment the district gives to this program is the building itself and 2 custodians, which we're very grateful for. ACE educates the largest number of learners, more than any single school in our district per year. Our adult students are taking their own initiative to transform their lives, their careers, and their futures. Yet the space we currently occupy was never designed or even remodeled for adult learners. In fact, it was built for an elementary-age children, and every day our students feel the mismatch. 7 months ago, I embraced a new learning and was able to work with our adult and community education. Picture, if you will, my very first day at ACE. I'm walking down the hallway. I have to use the restroom, and I go into the restroom, and I watched a 50-year-old woman try to maneuver herself into the restroom stall built for an elementary student. She finally got seated, but couldn't close the door, and then had to brace herself on the sides to get up as the toilet is 15 inches off the ground. The sink hits me at my thighs, and I'm only 5'2".
We also have insufficient parking, which means that students who are already juggling their jobs, childcare, transportation challenges, often late or circle the lot in frustration, and at times they choose to go home in defeat. Recently, we had 2 brothers from a village in Nigeria who had experienced a horrific event of having their village bombed, and both of the brothers lost 1 leg each. They came to our Aspire program, and they were turned away since we do not have any way for them to get to the 2nd floor, which is where Aspire is. ADA accommodations are essential for our community needs. Our adult and community education program has 2 major components. The first is Aspire, our GED and high school diploma pathway. The program is completely federally funded, and it provides adults with a foundational education that they need to get better jobs, higher wages, and long-term stability. Every diploma earned is a step towards breaking the generational cycles of poverty and opening doors that were once closed.
The second component of our workforce development program, which includes 2 high-demand career paths, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration, and practical nursing. These programs train adults for essential, well-paid careers that our region desperately needs. Did you know that our practical nursing program is only a 1-year program, which costs only $18,000 and has a 95% practical nursing licensure completion rate, one of the top in the state, and that the median entry salary is $62,340 per year with benefits.
But the reality is we cannot continue to grow these programs or fully serve the adults who depend on them in a space that is too small, outdated, and physically inappropriate for adult education. Our adult students deserve classrooms that reflect the dignity of the work that they are doing. They deserve a facility that supports hands-on training, professional learning, and modern workforce preparation. They deserve restrooms and common area for study that are sufficient to adult standards. And they deserve a campus that signals from the moment they arrive that their educational journey is valued and that this is the place for them to thrive.
Our students are doing their part. They're showing up, they're studying late, they're balancing jobs and families, and committing to a better future. Now it's time for us to do ours by placing them in a space that truly supports their growth and success. As we open our minds to possibilities, we don't need a new building. As our current high schoolers at COS transition to a different building that is more suited for secondary education, just dream a little bit with me and think of what that COS building could mean for our adult learners and for the Linden community. COS has an updated roof, new restrooms, more than sufficient parking, and plenty of room for expansion. Think of direct partnerships in that Linden community with Nationwide Children's Hospital and having our own practical nursing to registered nursing program. The opportunity of this pipeline for our adult learners, our school system nurses, and our community are endless. This is not a cost. It is an investment with measurable returns. Adult and community education is a true diamond in the rough. In closing, the bottom line is our students are adult learners. They are parents of our pre-K through 12th grade scholars, workers, caregivers, and community members. Thank you so much for your time and continued support of lifelong learning in our district for our community.
Can you explain a little bit more about some of the space needs for like the practical nursing program? Is it similar to what we heard when last time we listened to Career Tech, where they need classroom space and then
Lab space.
yeah, thank you, lab
Yes.
space. And then the other programs that are in there as well, like is that similar? Like what is the actual program needs for their space?
So at the building in Lexington Avenue, it is the home for practical nursing. So we essentially have 4 classrooms for 88 nursing students that we currently have. We have one is a gymnasium kind of lecture hall setting. We have a library that is also a lecture setting, and another classroom that's a lecture setting. We have 2 rooms that are open as one space that has, 12 hospital beds for labs. Not only the hospital beds, but the mannequins, the IV poles, the bedside tables, and it's very tight in there. That's the only thing we have there. Now for our Aspire program, it's on the 2nd floor. We have 6 classrooms on the 2nd floor. So 4 on the 1st, 6 on the 2nd, that are basic classrooms that, for GED, ESL, math or English, or adult diploma. And that's what we have at that facility. At Fort Hays, we have the wonderful opportunity to share the HVAC lab space with the Fort Hays campus and building, and that instructor that's there during the day. And so we have students that go to Fort Hays. We will have broadband in the fall. We have 45 students who are on the wait list for broadband. And that will take place starting in the fall at the downtown high school in the evening.
What questions do you all have about adult ed? Just real reminder, this is what we would call a self-sustaining program, because as you heard, it's tuition-based, and they have other grants and scholarship, but that's outside the district. What the district supports is really the facility itself and some ancillary needs like security. I think even the admin.
Actually, we pay for security.
Oh, yeah,
It's
okay.
2 custodians.
Custodians.
Yes.
You asked for security.
Yes, we did.
That's what it was.
Last year.
That's right.
At that presentation.
Great. Dr. Pierce.
Dr. Klein, thank you so much always for your energy. I didn't know if I was, in the Price is Right or what, but I was ready to give you a building if I can. I think it's very important when you talk about the restrooms. You literally made me think about CAS and why the students were so adamant for getting those restrooms updated. In terms of the actual flyer itself, because that's what we're giving feedback on too, correct? Definitely want to lift up committee member LaCount Burrell's earlier comment about adding the QR code there that connects to the links for these programs.
We already took your suggestion and talked about it. Yeah.
I love it. You are always on it. When we are listening to 39 staff members and the 45 persons that are waitlisted, I think that's great information to have in our repository for committee members and board members to know. But I'm wondering if we could put some of our partners there. So when I think about our broadband certifications, don't we partner with like Google? Are we partnering with Ohio Health on some of these? I think it would be good for those adults to see where their potential employment and earning and partnerships are coming from. So if we could add that there, I think that would be very beneficial. And then when we go up to the top where we're listing the 2,462 Aspire students, it says the adult diploma program. Yeah. I think it might also be useful to put GED there, because sometimes our adults see them as 2 separate things. Like I don't want to go to the classes, I just want to take the test. Yeah. So if we can separate those 2 and put that out.
Thank you.
I have a question more about the program than about the flyer. I think your flyer looks great, although I agree it needs a QR code. I was a little disheartened to hear about the 2 students with disabilities that had to be turned away because the facilities don't, because the facilities can't accommodate them. Is that something that happens often?
I'm sorry.
I said, is that something that happens often?
It's happened at least twice since I've been there, and I've only been there 7 months. But we have a different facility that's a partner facility we have to send them to.
Okay.
And they still have an opportunity, but it's not with Columbus Schools.
And is that inclusive of people with like intellectual and cognitive disabilities or only physical disabilities?
Physical. It has been physical since I have been there. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have room for, or are there programs that individuals who may be neurodivergent or something can take advantage of in this program?
Yes, we have had people take advantage of our Aspire and our GED programs that are cognitively disabled.
Okay, and then last question, I'll leave you alone. The cause site, I have not been to that school. Would it be able to accommodate like those 2 gentlemen if they were to come back and you had moved to a different building?
They actually have stair lifts there.
Okay.
I've checked that all out. And it's just an idea. I'll take any other ideas, but please, someday, give us something for our adult education students. They deserve it.
Absolutely.
It's just so rewarding to listen to their stories and to talk to them. Many of them, the majority of them are Columbus City School students that did not make it.
Right.
And they have decided to come back, and they have decided that they need to finish their education. So there's very few discipline issues. It's all about wanting to finish, and they know exactly what they need. It's actually an exciting place. You should come one day.
I would love to, thank you.
I just want to say that I think that, and I hear you, Dr. Klein, about like, hey, at some point you promised to move cause, there's going to be a vacant building. But the truth is that building is not designed for adult learning either. So if, and that's the point of our discussion, and if we are going to be designing spaces intentionally, what are specifically the things, like I don't want to just be like, just stick us in there because it's better, little bit. I mean, like.
Oh, no, it would be a lot of it, not
Well,
a little bit.
I mean,
So I would do an ADA compliant
but
building.
listen, if we were developing a true adult workforce learning hub in this city to be premier, what would be in it? Who are our competitors? What are they because this is revenue generation for us, which if we could do it in a better way, would support this program itself, but could also come into general fund as well.
Absolutely. So I will answer you by saying I would love to have like about 20 business partners in the city of Columbus, and I would like to have it all sectioned off so that our Linden community could benefit. You know, we could have accounting, we could have people doing taxes, we can have the nursing program. Can you imagine if we could satisfy the need not only for Ohio Health, for Ohio State, for Nationwide Children's Hospital, for all of those places, do our practical nursing program, to go into an RN program and actually have nationwide right there. I've actually even talked to them already about it. They are all in. They said, oh my gosh, this would be so wonderful. We could actually have a site where patients from the Linden area could come and our students could actually work beside trained professionals and not have to leave the campus. And think of the other possibilities with other career options like broadband. I mean, we don't even have the program right now because our former instructor was ill and had to leave the program. So we haven't had it for the last year. But think about that possibility with what's going on right now with Intel, with what's going on with just our world in general in this area. We could set people up for success in our community here.
Can I ask you this way? So if our vision is career academies and we are trying to get these same things that you're talking about in our high schools across the city, best practice, future vision, best way to do this, is it to create space in those high schools through ed specs where in the evening it just turns over into the adult workforce, or is it better to have 1 or 2 centralized locations where it is the hub? Like, have you thought about?
I'm going to tell you it's going to have to be a combination. Let me tell you why. Our HVACR program is at Fort Hayes and doing that very successfully. Our broadband was previously at Downtown High School. So you can use the same space and you don't have to have a brand new space. But practical nursing is a full-time program. So certain programs lend themselves to certification with specific number of hours, like broadband, that is very easy to get on a part-time basis, but practical nursing is not. So it depends on the programs you want to go after as to if you need a dedicated building or if you can share the space. And I would say a combination would be the best thing for the community in Columbus.
Dr. Klein, given your work with our student activities, could you also share why we need that combination to protect the safety for our students in their after-school activities, i.e. basketball, track, cheerleading?
Yeah, well, think about this, Dr. Pierce. If we had a sports medicine group and we could actually do that as one of our certifications.
No, I'm just thinking about practices, when our students are there practicing and there are some adults.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully we are casting a wide net, that we are getting a diversity of learners that are coming in, and they might have some stipulations that they cannot be around certain populations. We still want to make sure that those buildings where we have our career academies still have that high school touch, so our students are still able to participate in after-school activities, debate clubs, cheer, basketball.
Sure. And you can always have separate door and separate entrances as well. And there are several examples around our suburbs of buildings that are multi-use like that. Just something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We're gonna, one more, and then we get it, because we have, do you see all these we have?
There's a lot.
Okay, go ahead.
And so mine is really more about the language of the flyer. The moving our community out of poverty. If that's very deficit minded, right? Like, can we have more of a shifting into opportunities or pathways? You know, as opposed to right.
Just take the whole thing off to make room for partners and a QR code. We don't even need that.
Thank you.
That's the first thing I
I
thought.
also want to add that we serve students from 133 countries. So the diversity that we have in our programs is incredible. And it's so wonderful to see them in the classroom. They're so excited for the opportunity just to be able to get an education. It's amazing. So, very inspiring. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So we took a deep dive into pre-K and adult education. We are going to hear briefly about a gifted education, followed by some information about two of our middle school programs. And then I've been promising for a couple of months that we're going to talk about whole child, and we're going to do a little bit of that tonight as well. So at this time, Dr. Smith.
And as they're
And
coming
team.
up, just so that you guys, she said briefly, because it is our plan to actually in June take an even deeper dive into the girls and boys school, which will be talked about after this. And maybe gifted, we don't know yet. But so these will take deeper dives. But you guys have kind of heard the lines of questions, so we can adjust a little bit and anticipate.
Okay, thank you. I'm Kirsten Smith, the Director of Gifted Education, and we in Gifted and Talented offer a variety of services and service settings to offer gifted services to the students in our district. We have a little over 4,200 gifted identified students, and you know that the state requires us to test, so gifted screening, but not service. We have 24 site schools across the district, 16 elementary and 8 middle schools. There are a minimum of 2 elementary site schools and 1 middle school site school in every region so that there is equity. There are multiple entry points into gifted service, and you can see our continuum of service from K-2 all the way to high school. So I'm going to have my supervisor of gifted Judy Jones talk about the specifics of space, and then after her, I'm gonna have Principal Reed, who is the principal of the Columbus Gifted Academy, talk about the space needs of CGA.
Okay, really, truly, the majority of students in our district who receive gifted services, or the largest percentage, is in these gifted site schools, so these 24 gifted site schools. And the way it works is if I have a third grader at Como who picks up a gifted identification on an iReady test or in some gifted testing that we do, then the next spring, and we're in the middle of this process right now, Dr. Smith sends 4,200 letters that are all personalized for each of these students as to what their options are. So they can remain at Como and not receive formal gifted services because they're not a site school, or they will also be offered, they could go to Clinton, and sometimes also if they have enough in terms of gifted identifications, they can also have the option of going to the Columbus Gifted Academy. So what does that really mean about space? So these 24 gifted site schools, it would be great, we would ask that you consider that they have designated space for our gifted pull-out programs. We have small groups, anywhere from 1 to 20 students and above. So really, that's a little beyond what we in education would deem a pull-out, but they work. This is a process that of supporting gifted students in Columbus that has been in place for many years. We do transport students to receive gifted services at these site schools, but here is an obstacle that we have gifted teachers who are teaching in hallways. We have them also at times, teaching on a stage adjacent to a cafeteria, which is very difficult, when you're teaching K-1 second graders. And the space, which is, it's like a currency in a school, and it's very, very challenging. And we ask that appropriate learning spaces to accommodate these groups be considered or designated even, at the beginning of the year as we look at master schedules, because our services are tied to delivering service minutes. Most of our delivery models are tied to a teacher delivering 225 minutes to each student. Now that, of course, can be done in groups. But when they get to a school and many factors are at play, and this is in no way criticism. This is just the reality actually for intervention specialists in many areas and other support staff. If that space that they're learning in is always shifting due to other demands, it becomes an obstacle to delivering that service. And we do report gifted services to the state of Ohio. We receive some funding in return. So if we're saying to our communities and to ODU that we are providing this service, we are committed to doing so. So as far as what it looks like in gifted site schools, typically even at middle school, these are pull-out groups of various size students. We're the only district in Ohio that we are aware of that serves K-12 in gifted. So we're very fortunate and very grateful that we have this framework of service, but it relies on space for pull-out groups. So licensed gifted teachers can have those interactions and deliver, that specialized instruction to our kids. Anything? Okay. It's all you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name's Amanda Reed. I am the director of Columbus Gifted Academy. It's my privilege to talk to you tonight about spaces that facilitate learning at Columbus Gifted Academy. What we know from research in the National Association for Gifted Children is that these spaces don't need to be extravagant or high cost. They can be highly effective without cost. At the Gifted Academy, our observations and research highlight specific needs. Our gifted learners and our staff are very sensitive to their learning environments. Key needs include flexible furnishings, so that furniture should support both collaborative learning as well as autonomous independent learning. For example, students can pull their desks or furnishings together to do a collaborative design project. And then they can be moved so that students can work independently. Those tables and seating should be movable. Another important piece is built-in spaces for self-regulation. Our data tells us and our students tell us that gifted learners benefit from quiet spaces to decompress or to focus when emotions become high. And that's real in the research. Emotional sensitivities, overexcitabilities are real for gifted learners who are functioning at high cognitive levels. So this looks like spaces for reflection or mindfulness when short breaks that can reduce the stress of learning and improve learning outcomes. This looks like cozy nooks, soft seating, small privacy alcoves within the classroom so the student can separate, regulate, and then return to the learning. The other thing that's important for us at CGA is the connection to the natural world and the community. So spaces for students to connect their classroom learning to the community. That for us looks like outdoor learning areas, windows that open, garden spaces. It looks like the ability to take a bus to the Ohio History Connection. It looks like the ability to go to Audubon and study natural species and connect with their learning in the classroom to the community. So again, thoughtful design of these spaces don't require high cost, and investing in them supports student engagement, it fosters creativity, and it boosts overall learning results. So again, I thank you for allowing me to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Can I just say, I love how you talk about the need for space and functional furniture in CGA. I think what I appreciate about your comments is that research shows that those types of things will help all students. And so I appreciate you for centering that in our meeting today, that as we think about what our spaces need to look like in the future, all of our students will benefit from the comfy seating, the reading nooks, the opportunities to take a break in their learning space without having to go to a completely different section of a building. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you for lifting that up as well. And I didn't mention our library. Our school librarian circulates 2,000 to 3,000 books per quarter. And so that love of reading is real. And it's not just something kids want in our spaces, it's something they need. And so that library space is essential for us.
I have a quick question about this flyer. So I know we, when kids test gifted, it's a variety of subject matters, including art and dance and things like that. Is that included in this number, or is this, it is, okay. You might want to, I don't know if our community knows that. That might be something to add, like, because you have the continuum, but like high school only says like advanced courses, honors, AP, IB. It's not like what would be at Fort Hayes. Like Ames isn't really represented here, but we have gifted arts in Ames, right? And so maybe add that in if those students are included in your 4,246. Is it? You looking at me like, okay. And I don't know if it, because you were talking about the number of minutes, perhaps that's different, like academically gifted versus arts or whatever, it's different, but if they're included in this number, I think that it's important to put on the flyer.
I'd just like to call out that so far tonight, this is my favorite flyer of the flyers because it's the only one that has a blurb on it that we've seen so far that like explains very briefly what the program is.
Oh yeah, the top.
And I think that the rest of them would probably also benefit from a similar kind of explanation. I know we've kind of surfaced that a couple of times, but like this is a good example of a good synthesis of explanation and then also like the visual stimulation. I really like this. And it makes perfect sense, really easy to understand what you all are doing.
Dr. Pierce?
And I don't know if this would be a good question for you, Dr. Mosier, or for the team, but I think when we're talking about our gifted education programs, is there a way that we can also incorporate how we provide opportunities for students to accelerate in various ways? So our sophomore to seniors, or the seniors to sophomore, seniors to sophomore programs, our CCP programs. So if the committee members as well as board members could have that information in the repository to be able to share as we're going out, I think this highlights some of the great programs that we do for gifted education, but there are so many enriching programs that we offer that everyone can take advantage of. So let's make sure that we have that information that we can share.
And just as a reminder, back to the layers, it is a requirement that we do the testing. The services are what is considered the layer 2 or 3, like providing the actual services. So we have chosen to actually serve, and so, but it's not the requirement piece. So that's why, just for committee members, that's why it's considered a layer 2 or 3, depending on where we're gonna put the program.
Would our CCP programs be required as a layer 2 or layer 3?
We could look at those higher ed partnerships. We should probably bring our higher ed representatives.
Okay.
Certainly, there are a variety of acceleration options, some of which, due to student need, may actually fall into layer 1.
Oh, okay.
This one, this particular topic, we may need to split in a couple different components.
So in the future, can we discuss that? Because I think some schools, if we're talking about space, are offering the Columbus State classes in their buildings and have the dedicated spaces for like government and the English classes and those things. So just our committee might want to give thought to how we have those wing spaces available in our buildings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will invite Dr. Patton to come up. We are going to hear now about 2 of our middle school programs.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak on something that is dear to my heart, near and dear. I'm currently the area superintendent for Region 2 that houses Columbus City Prep for Boys and Columbus City Prep for Girls, so I'll speak about both. And I was also the former principal of Columbus City Preparatory School for Girls. And so, as you can see, there is diverse population between the boys and the girls school. We draw from students from all over the city, and we service students that are EL learners, students with IEPs, and also gifted students. They are housed in 2 different locations currently. So one of the things that is a big draw and that parents are really interested in when we talk about recruitment and things that we offer is that single gender, boys and girls, do learn differently. So how do we set up that environment that really captures the difference of learning that students can thrive in that environment? So I'll start with a few keynotes from the boys' school, and then I'll matriculate over to the girls' school. So when we talk about movement, integrated architecture, what we're talking about is that what we know research shows is that boys like to move around. They like hands-on, they like space. And so we're talking about standing desks, we're talking about floor seating zones, mobile furniture, designed to response to their neuroscience so that the boys can shift their bodies and move around. And usually traditional desk and space don't always allow for that. And then it becomes a corrective measure because then you're trying to maintain controlled chaos. But we like chaos when it leads to student outcomes. And so that would be one thing. The second thing would be challenge stations, building to walls. We know that boys like competition. And so this embodies the challenges into the physical environment. So if we have puzzle stations, if we have maker spaces, coding panels, and so design challenges that rotate through classrooms, through different content areas that allow the boys to be in a competitive environment, and the teacher becomes the motivator and can be the facilitator versus just teacher-led instruction. Also, we talk about a brotherhood wall, so things that are built into the wall where they can see their mentors, where they can see role models, when they have partnerships come in from the community that are also able to affirm the things of, identity for them as they are matriculating from a middle school adolescence to then high school and what that means, and creating that self-efficacy. So it's the infrastructure and not just decoration. So again, these are enhancements to some of the things we already offer, but when we're talking about ideal spaces, it's really exciting because this is how we would enhance it. And so again, creating spaces for debate, academic challenge rounds for boys, and also we used to have competitions between the boys and the girls' school, and I believe they still do now to a certain extent. So really getting that camaraderie and then that socializing for boys and girls, because you do want them to socialize even though you're teaching them academically separate sometimes, so that the energy doesn't disappear, it just gets aimed in a different direction. And the last thing for the boys' school I'll talk about is a sound, intentional design. And so this would be infrastructure because as boys, they like to be loud, right? They like to be excited. They like to use their voice, and we don't want to stifle that. So when we're talking about acoustic engineering, how can we build sound walls so that we can have fun and excitement in the classrooms and it doesn't disturb other learning that's going on? So again, it enhances the energy and it's how the brain works. And so that would be the ideal space for that, is to have those loud collaboration zones. And then you can have the quiet corridors for the other type of activities. And so, again, nurturing where boys are in that adolescent stage and surrounding them with the physical structures that support that environment would be very helpful for the boys. So next, I'll move to the girls. And ideal learning spaces. So for girls, conversation-centered furniture. And so we talk about girls having spaces where they can have discourse, where relationships is not a distraction for learning. And so the conversations that they're having in these areas, number one is a sisterhood. It provides support, but it also is academic spaces. Our girls like to read, they like to journal. So these are spaces that are alternative to the traditional classroom. So if they need to have a more comfortable setting, or they don't want to be around their peers and they want to have private space, it gives that opportunity. The second is the affirmation architecture. And again, this is a space where the walls speak with intention. And so a lot of publicizing what the girls do, what they want to be, and seeing those type of things, and also having those community partnerships. And so when you have those town hall meetings, when you have the Heritage Months, and when you're celebrating those type of things, these are things that they see every day, and it just affirms who they are. So what you traditionally see is girls that attend the girls' school, they're not scared to speak up. So when they're in a math class, or if boys are in the classroom, they don't minimize their intelligence, and they want to take the lead. And so that type of environment affirms that, and we want to create student leaders. And so a lot of the girls from the girls' school, they do go on to high school, and the feedback that we get is that you can tell they come in comfortable, they come in sure of themselves, and they often take leadership positions even in their freshman year, and that's what we would like to see. The third thing is the wellness alcove, so social dynamics, dealing with the way of being perceived. As a young lady in today's environment, we are competing against social culture. And so how do we develop our own culture against some of those things that we want young ladies to embrace and be able to discern whom to follow and what to follow, and then being able to pass that on to the younger students. So when they're in 8th grade, modeling that for 6th grade students. So again, a well-designed space, knowing that they're a whole child and not just a learner, and so addressing those norms. Creation-forward surfaces, so girls like to write, design, build, and perform at remarkable levels. So an ideal girls' learning environment is writable walls, publication boards, display rails, gallery space that is embedded not only through the classroom, but in the hallways and the common areas as the auditorium and the cafeteria. Also in the restrooms, they take pride. They like to write kind words. They like to have the toiletries, like all the things. So just those environments as they are going. And then we partner with, other organizations to support that environment as well. And then just the last one is the collaboration with privacy options. Girls work best when they can choose the level of intimacy in their collaboration. So an ideal space offers for group work areas that can be made semi-private with soft dividers, panels, movable walls. It's not about secrecy, but it's about the developmental reality that adolescent girls form trust in smaller configurations and do their most courageous thinking when they feel psychologically safe. So just a space that flexes between community and sanctuary honors both social and the private dimensions of how girls learn. So thank you.
Dr. Pierce.
We know that numbers only give a very limited point or picture of what is happening, right? So as we look at the enrollment numbers for these two programs, we see that it is low, right? And even in comparison to the programs that we're learning more about, is significantly lower than our programs. And so given your expertise in gendered education spaces, given your historical knowledge and just experience in our district, can you speak to how maybe a intentionally designed space for both of these communities could be created to increase the number? Is it a campus? Is it a pre-K through 12 program? Because this is a numbers game at this point.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question and the why and the historical knowledge behind it. So there are several things. One of the unfortunately, the competing forces was, so when we moved out and we had the Gifted Academy, a lot of the students that went were having the gifted services, and so that was one of the populations that we talked about. So one of the things that we do is encourage and model off of the schools that they most likely attend, which would be Cause or Eastmore Academy, and providing humanities in middle school and some of those upper level programs. And so now you see that CCPSG was just awarded the Momentum, the 4-star, so they're showing and demonstrating that they still have that strong academic presence for parents who would still like that option. And so that's one of the things. When COVID hit, one of the big sales for the girls' school and the boys' school was that relational interaction. And so when parents would come in and tour the building and they would get to see the programs, and we would do the school choice fair, those were a lot of those things, because some of the creative spaces and things like that is a visual thing, and then your students also sell your program. So as we're coming out of the COVID era and we're starting to be able to invite parents back into the spaces to see what we offer and to see those needs for those students who desire the single gender education, it's building back upon those things, because you're right, we did have, I think when I was there, we had 485 students, but unfortunately, due to the dynamics of the pandemic, and then looking at those other opportunities that buildings that we pulled from, some have 6th graders already in their building, and as a parent, they want their child to finish out that K-6 experience. They want to come 7th grade, but we're full at 7th grade because we pull from charters in other areas. So it's that dynamic. So the recommendation would be to look at what parents said they would like, is maybe to go down to maybe a 5th grade and pull up, so start down and build up, or to add a 9th grade because they want their girls to have that freshman experience and be grounded before they go to high school and enter that 10 through 12 experience. So those were the things, I think, prior to COVID that we were looking at to not only sustain, because we do have the physical space for that, to be able to then expand and build even a stronger foundation with those students, since we get them from all over the city.
And would that modeling also help the boys, so pulling from the 5 and up? I don't know about the 9, because I know athletics might be an issue then.
The sports would be an issue, right.
So, but it would also be helpful.
And so when we think about research, and we think about, especially for males, and when they start to be categorized or their trajectory in life, right, that 4th grade reading score, those type of things. So looking, like you said, Dr. Pierce, starting lower for the boys and bringing them up would make them stronger middle school students, being able to develop them in their adolescent stage, and preparing them to be stronger student athletes as well as students when they get to high school. So absolutely, that would help with the numbers, because the numbers don't really tell the story as you mentioned. So thank you for that question.
So we are going to actually take a very deep dive in June with these two programs. And we are going to, I've asked for additional data for us, including outcomes for transitions of these students when they get to high school. How is that all working? Because that's the goal, right? And also we will kind of layer this over, just as you kind of started, best practices for how these type of single gender programs work, and how does it work across the country, right? Like really trying to understand this type of academic model. And it would be great to understand more of the history about how did Columbus decide to do this? Because this is part of that, we have to decide what layer this is going into. Because it's something that we currently invest in. You cannot have one without the other by law, so we can't, if we, think that, we can't have the boys' school without the girls' school. We have to have two schools, like that's just the way it works. So kind of thinking about this a little bit deeper in terms of the bigger academic offering that Columbus City Schools is going to give. So we are taking a deep, deep dive in June on this one. So I want to draw us back, though, to the flyers, because I think that we can give it some feedback on the flyers. And I guess for me, like, it's okay, but it's not really telling me anything, to be honest with you. And when I look at these graphics, like at the bottom in particular, I just am like, isn't that what every school should have, no matter what? And so I don't, like, as you explain it, it makes sense, but looking at the picture, I'm not grabbing it right away. And so, and I think too, like, if there is information, like you said, we, and I don't know if you have data or if it's anecdotal, but like, this is a success rate for our girls, or this is what our boys are doing, or this is, like, there's no story after middle school here. So for me, that's like, these two were not as solid, I think, as some of the others with like the explanation and data behind it for our community to understand.
Well, if I could, I think the lower half of these two is really speaking to the ideal learning space. And that was specifically, if we're out in the community sharing what the spaces should look like, you 100% in these flyers address that. But I think what the committee is asking for is to have more of the information that's up top.
Yes.
What I would share is that because those numbers are significantly lower, we might considering combining the two flyers together to share that we offer single-gendered educational opportunities within our district. Here's what's being offered at the boys' school and why. Here's what's being offered at the girls' school and why, right? And I do appreciate the racial diversity that's given in this one. But again, I think we might do better focusing on the unique value proposition of both of these programs versus the demographic disaggregation of our student populations. And that's probably the first time in 7 years somebody has heard me say that from this board, because I always want the disaggregated figures. But I think in this particular instance, let's lead with the value proposition.
Yeah, just like the girls' school won the momentum.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and the academics, what are, like you said, they're doing humanities. Like, not all middle schools are doing that. Like, what are the things that make them special?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that.
You said it all, it's just not.
It's not on the flyer. And I think, like you said, because of the uniqueness and the single gender versus it being widespread throughout several different locations, it's like, how do you capture that? So I appreciate the conversation. So now I can match the visual with the story. So that's great advice, and I will definitely fine tune that, and that way it'll be a flyer that represents where, like you said, parents can understand and want to know more, and then they can call the schools and go and actually see the story in action and how these things are implemented and how girls and boys thrive in that environment. So absolutely appreciate how to capture that, because I think that's the conversation. Even when you're saying deeper dive, people really don't have that understanding of what the single gender is, why it was founded, how it's thrived. So I will make sure that that's captured.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I agree with the storytelling, adding some additional storytelling. And just from a space perspective, your graphics are lovely. They are very large. And because I'm not being told a lot about the ideal learning space, which is fascinating, by the way. I'm over here, like, as you were speaking, I was thinking, I would love to read some articles about that, because that sounds fascinating. But I also wrote down in my notes before you got to the explanation, like a note to ask you what affirmation architecture is. Because like some of these are just terms, you know what I mean? And without the context of that you gave us, I would still be wondering that, and I imagine that many of our parents probably would be too.
Absolutely. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Mosher, sorry, we have a couple more, but I don't think we're going through all of them. We just wanted the committee members to have them, and we're gonna maybe talk about these later.
Yes, that's correct. And I do certainly want to name as well. So there's an at-a-glance for special education services and English learner services. Those would certainly not be layer 2. That's in layer 1. We talked about them somewhat last month. We did put one-pagers in. Again, we can collect some feedback from the committee, and we can get that outside of this meeting. But we do want to make sure that when you go out in the community, you are equipped with overview information. And I think many of the call-outs about the QR code and a link to more information on the specifics, we would certainly include. But we are going to take a few minutes to hear from our whole child team, representatives from that team.
Before you do that, can I just make one tiny comment?
Yes.
Real quick, before we move on to that, I just wanted to say the continuum as it's, the LRE continuum as it's explained on the special education handout is much more compelling, even though it's explaining a lot of the same information as the one on the pre-K. I know it's more simple for pre-K because pre-K is not as in-depth as that, but just because we had already talked about that with the pre-K one, that is a really nice representation of LRE that I feel like explains better what that kind of looks like, and even like the language, like service can be provided along a continuum of options makes more sense than continuum of LRE, because if I'm a pre-K parent who just found out that my student has, or that my kid has a need for an IEP or a 504, I may not know what LRE even is. I don't know what all those letters are yet, so. But this is very nice.
And thank you.
And if I could add, just because you just stated it, that you would like the feedback on the 3 programs you just mentioned, but I'm assuming you will want feedback from us on all of them?
Yes.
So if you could give us the specific date and time as to when you want that feedback, and I'm sure you'll give it to us before we end this meeting, but that would be greatly appreciated. Who we're sending the feedback to, if it's directly to you, our committee chair, Dare, and who we're sending it to, when you need it by. And I think that's all. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, well, I welcome representatives from our whole child team. We are going to take a few minutes to hear about our whole child services. And again, they are going to connect their information to specific facility considerations.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Wanda Ferris. I'm the supervisor of our school counselors.
Good evening. My name is Laura Schnaplin. I'm the supervisor of care supports.
So as our one-pager says, whole child really means whole child. So to capture whole child in one page is simply just impossible. So we welcome your feedback on how we could make this, more informative for our community. And again, because we are a whole child, we really touch the academic side. We touch the mental health side. We touch the behavior side, we touched the attendance side. So literally, that is a lot to capture in just the few minutes that we have, but we will do our best. And oftentimes, I think people see whole child, or those who are the staff members that you see here that represent our office, as those who help our students with the non-academic barriers. But I do want to also mention that we do also help our students with those academic barriers. Our school counselors play a pivotal role in ensuring that the district meets that graduation goal. So let me repeat that. That graduation goal has been met, and counselors have played a pivotal role in that. And I could talk about that, extensively, but I won't tonight. What I do want to talk more about is the space that we have limitations with when it comes to significantly our Tier 2 supports that our counselors, our social workers, our attendance specialists, and others in our office provide. If I am a student walking into a school and I have come from significant trauma experiences, maybe I have a sensory disability, and I'm in a classroom, and what comes to picture for me is West High School. If you've been in West High School, the classrooms are no bigger than literally from here to half of the space between you and I. And if I think about some of the things that my colleagues have shared about space to do group work, that's literally impossible. If I think about space to create community, I cannot circle up my students to do that. If I think about space where students who have experienced significant trauma, having the door to my back can be very triggering to me. So when we think about space, it's expanding the space for community building, for trauma-informed practices, alternative seating, options with lighting, not just this very bright lighting that we only have the one choice in. The colors on our walls, for students who have sensory issues, it could be having something on the wall for them to touch. Maybe the sound of the bells could be triggering to me. I could spend a lot of time talking about all of those issues, right? And then when I think at a smaller scale, as a school counselor, as a social worker, and some of our other folks who do our Tier 2 work, do I have space to bring together a group of kids? Maybe my classroom or my office space used to be a closet. I don't have space to do my Tier 2. Or I have to wait until recess or until lunch when there is a space available, which limits me in terms of how I have access to do those Tier 2 supports. One of the other things that is mentioned on our one-pager is we are very grateful to have a partnership with our Student Success Stores organization. And they are limited in where they can offer those opportunities. And for those of you who may not know what our Student Success Stores are, those are spaces where our students can go and shop confidentially for hygiene, for clothes, for food, for themselves and for their family. That requires space. And so when our Student Success Stores partners are looking for schools that they could potentially partner with, space becomes an option or a barrier, if you will. Also thinking about where do we build space, and if you're familiar with PEAK in our district, PEAK is what we used to call in-school suspension, right? And we have removed some of that language because it's not inclusive. So our PEAK spaces oftentimes are limited in how they can serve our students, where they have those spaces to regulate, where they have those spaces to go and maybe complete some work. And our PEAK IAs have done amazing jobs at really creating some spaces, right? But they are limited in our schools where there just simply is not, and they're over capacity. And so I will allow Laura to share the rest.
My perspective by way of the care supports is reminding everyone that our school counselors, our school social workers, and our community-based partners, their clinicians, are bound by ethics of confidentiality. And so when any of those staff members are working with students, they need to have privacy. So privacy is a priority. We want to be mindful of providing spaces that are flexible for our school-based partners, for our counselors, for our social workers, and then also that are flexible for one-on-one Tier 3 supports, but then also for small groups or preventative services. If we are considering spaces for our CCS staff, we might want to consider spaces that allow for, I'll say, professional work, such as a desk, but then also having a space with a table or flexible seating that allows our staff members to work in their designated space with a small group of students. We also want to be mindful of having some more flexible spaces for those community partners, whether we have community partners that are in a building for an hour at a time working one-on-one with a student, or half the school day, half the school week, or the full week, having those flexible spaces that also allow for privacy will be very important. We now have an option for telehealth school-based services. So as we are considering what that telehealth feature might look like down the road, it's important that we are considering spaces that have, I'll say, a window, whether a door has a window or off to the side has a window, because we need to provide that space for privacy and confidentiality, but we also need to maintain that visual monitoring of students. So as we're considering students' needs, especially when they do need additional levels of support, so small group or individualized services, we want to be mindful that providing those spaces for that to happen helps us to provide our students abilities to build their self-regulation, increase their well-being, and as a result, we are setting our students up for increased attendance, better matriculation, and our ultimate goal of on-time graduation.
Thank you.
Questions? And we brought them to talk specifically about this because we kept mentioning it, and your colleagues kept mentioning it, right? Like, and they would say, and the counselors need to come in, and they need space. So, just making sure we understand. And again, you brought up the adult space as well for professionals to do their work and be supportive. Also, technology space or needs or technology considerations. I think in those, when you brought up telehealth, that's a tech need too that we need to be mindful of. So spaces that are adaptive to that as well. We have a lot of students that wouldn't be able to sit in a classroom without these services. I mean, that's the importance of when we say whole child. The learning can't happen if we don't have that whole team of people. And I have a kid that needs that. So I personally appreciate it. And so it's, it's incredibly important understanding these services and the spaces that are needed to make these services happen. And so I think that we did hear a lot from the others last time about how they interact with you. And I see others like the academic programs and all of that. So thank you so much for coming in about that. Yeah.
Question for them. So I think with the flyer, what's concerning me is that we're giving a lot of the indicators of how we as a district and board measure whole child. So would this be very useful for community members and parents, right? The PBIS, it's my understanding that that system is changing over. It's going to be under a new one. I think it's great that we've, had the 70 schools receive it this past year, and they were honored. I think what would be the information that's more beneficial to share is if we have a percentage that maybe 90% of our students feel that someone in the building loves and cares for them, right? That's one of the things that Panorama picks up, right? Do you feel that there is an adult that cares about your safety and your well-being, right? If there is a high indicator that we can put on there as opposed to Panorama survey, the belonging piece, right? And then again, I'm concerned about that because as I understand it, the superintendent would like us to switch over to a different format for that. So again, with those two, when we come to the student success store, those are great. I will give them a plug right now for their Paint the Town Orange fundraiser that is coming up on June 11th. Please go buy tickets. Again, that organization gives our students free toiletries, underwear, socks, bras, sports bras, you name it, and they are often in closets. But we know that we work with so many other partners, as you all have given us data on that with the tiered services. So it might be more helpful to also list how many partners are providing us with the academic support, how many partners are providing us with the social emotional support, how many partners are providing us with the physical education support, right? Maybe we feature how many times the crew has done a clap-in at our schools, things of that nature. That, I think, is the information that our community would be galvanized by very quickly in a one-pager, as kind of opposed to what we have right now.
Thank you for that.
I think that, I'm not sure, I mean, I know what whole child means, but I think looking at this, I'd be interested for the community members. Do you know what our definition of whole child is by looking at this?
No.
No.
I can also say, as a mom of a kindergartner and a second grader, that I'm not entirely sure what PBIS is. Like, I know what the words mean, but like, PBIS doesn't mean anything to me. And so, like, 70 PBIS awards sounds cool because I'm here. I'm not sure that would resonate with me, other than, oh, that's cool. Like, if someone were to give this to me, because PBIS doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's not, like, I just don't think that schools do a great job of explaining it. It's kind of an in-depth thing, but like, those sorts of things don't really add anything to this. And to answer your question, Jennifer, no, not just from looking at this, would I know what whole child is. I do, because I've been in these meetings for a year and a half, but.
But I think what you also might be getting at, Jen, is why we give kind of how we define it, right? The positive relationships. That differs from if you're an educational expert who's in this space and you're used to what the standard definition of whole child is: safe, engaged, challenged, right? Ours is very different from that. So also, why are we using it differently?
I was trying not to go down a rabbit hole with it. But essentially, though, the whole child is all the complaints that parents have about the school that's not happening, right? Be that bullying, be that they had to do self-defense. So everything that they send messages to, that this isn't happening in the school, or that there are supports in this whole child supports that address that, and this doesn't reflect that this is how it's addressed in the school. This is what whole child means for your child if you feel like they're being bullied or they got into it. I'm saying this now because I got a text this morning about someone's child got self-defense and they have spent whatnot. But it's that, right? It's their supports, their whole child supports that provide that direct support, not only to the students, but to the families, right? That's not reflected in this.
And I see us trying to get here, I think, in the who we are, but I think there's just opportunity to add more captivating.
I just noticed that, less of who we are and more of what we do.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that feedback.
And like, you not touch, but like, you impact every student in our district, literally. And so just get more of that kind of, what it means, what you do, what's that impact.
How many pages can we get?
You get the one, but your number is every student in our district, as well as all of our staff, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You do employee wellness, and so that's important. You touch every person in our district.
Thank you for the feedback. We will go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. How long has the district been using this whole child approach? Do you know? And you may not know. That may just be a random question.
Well, what I can tell you is that about 10 years ago, we were having a lot of conversation with internal and external folks about why it was important to, for example, have a school counselor in every school. We did not have school counselors in every school. In fact, many, many schools had services of a school counselor maybe a day or two a week. And in some cases, that is true again. But COVID really changed that. And I think that we all came to understand how important it was, especially in that first year when we were returning to school. Now, at that time, we had some additional support from federal dollars, and one of the first decisions that was made about how to utilize those funds was actually to increase the number of school counselors and school social workers in our schools. We needed those services before the dollars, I would say. And, you know, I was an elementary principal, and I was at a fairly small school for a couple of years. I think I had a school counselor on Mondays and Wednesday afternoons. Well, if that's not when the problem occurred, then I might have been able to phone another principal and ask for someone to leave a school and come over. But certainly, we know that our school counselors, our school social workers, other services provided, students need those every day.
Okay. And I'll also say, when the board, and Dr. Pierce will remember this, when we started the goals and guardrails discussion, and we were first implementing those, this idea of whole child, it was something that the Department of Education was using. It was called that at the time. And, you know, it's really, we embrace it as one of our guardrails, requiring that we must use this approach. Our superintendent can't, what is it? It's like a negative. We have to say it in negative. But we have to use it in all that we consider, because obviously, as you know, Ms. Mosier was explaining and we've heard, it's really addressing the barriers, the things that are preventing our kids, you know, whatever it might be, from being able to actually sit in a classroom and learn. And our teachers don't have the time or expertise sometimes to actually do it on the spot. And so what are those supports that are needed? And so the board made that a guardrail.
In 2020, so it's been since 2020. The board has been very committed with our goals and guardrails to ensure that we're educating the whole child.
That's what I was looking for.
As we wrap up this section of the agenda, I am, if our folks back in the back room have it teed up, I do want to show you just a couple of minutes of an example where this visioning and intentional planning was done with fidelity. You're going to see a couple of minutes of a video of the Ecole Kenwood French Immersion School. The facility that you're going to see opened about 10 years ago. And part of what I want to point out, and let me be clear, this was a school-based video, so we did not have our comms team doing this. But I think it will still give you a clear picture of what those intentional spaces that were created specifically with and for the staff, students, and families who will use the school in what that looks like now. So we're going to watch 3 minutes. So just wanted to give a quick overview of what it can look like and what it does look like. That's Ecole Kenwood. We'll send out the link to this particular video. It's 10 minutes and it features more about Ecole. It also includes the Spanish immersion school. And again, I think the point here is that because the facility, the space was designed with input from those who will use the space, 10 years later, they're finding that it's working very well. So you saw that flexible furniture, some of the other things that we heard about earlier. So I'll close this part of the meeting.
All right, thank you. We knew that was going to take most of the meeting, quite honestly. So our next is our educational visioning recap, and I know that some of you went to these sessions, but I'll have Catherine kind of give a quick overview of what those were about, and then I'd love some of your reflections from the ones that you attended.
So thank you. When we were here last month, we were just about to kick off this series, but we did hold 6 sessions over the course of 3 days at the end of April. We met at Centennial High School, Afrocentric High School, and West High School. Each day we had a 2-hour ed visioning session with students from the school. And approximately 70 students participated in those sessions, and then repeated that same session in the evening for community members, and had a total of about 100 participants over the course of those 3 nights. Some of you participated. Auditor O'Connor, I won't put you on the spot, but you were at a table the first night, and I did notice that your group engaged in the activities, so maybe you'll have a comment about that as well. While those sessions were facilitated, I think one of the takeaways was really that it was a very different kind of experience. If people came into the room expecting a presentation or a document to be handed to them, that was not what happened in those 2 hours. Heavy on participation. And again, really just an introduction to the process of educational visioning. The comment that the facilitator made at the beginning of the session was really that if you don't start with visioning, communities very often just end up building a new version of what they already have. And so I have a brief summary that we'll pass out, but I'll stop right there with just, we had 6 sessions. They were facilitated, and this was really just the introduction to visioning.
For those of you, I know Dr. Pierce led one of them, gave a welcome at one. Auditor O'Connor was there. I believe, you were at one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you at one? I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback on things that you heard from the community members, and maybe to Catherine's point about it was a little different experience, and having gone through it now as a committee member, partly what we want to do now is be able to take what we've learned in those sessions and go back out to our community and ask those same kind of questions and engage them in a way that helps them start to vision. So we aren't building the same thing, just, a little bit fancier, right? It is really about trying to get to these spaces that we keep hearing our professionals talk about that are really going to help get us to that space of the great student outcomes that we need. As well as thinking about where our community will be in 20 years. And we didn't really talk about this, but we had the United Way presentation that is on the web now if you missed it, but just talking about demographic changes and the needs of our population as well. So kind of thinking about that longer term and building to that. So I do also want to say thank you, Dr. Pierce. Vice President Ingalls was at one, Board Member Simmons attended, and there's one other board member.
Mr. Katzenmeier?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Katzenmeier attended. So I want to publicly thank them. I was not able to attend, and I want to thank them for stepping up for me in those, to be the board member. I did really want to go, but I had a death in my family, so I was not able to be there. So I want to thank my fellow board members and staff and all of you for being there when I couldn't. So I'm excited to hear what you experienced.
I'll start off. I attended the first night of the Ed Visioning. Ms. Moser, thank you for bringing up what the facilitator mentioned in the beginning of our session. I think that was important for him to say to all of us committee members and community members, because that is so true, because we will rebuild what we already have. And I also think it was really, really important that the facilitator also shared what the students had also collected collaboratively of what they actually want in a high school or any school setting that would be most conducive for their learning. What I found very interesting is that I love that it was interactive. I was able to share a table with our superintendent, Dr. Chapman. So we were able to kind of actually reminisce on what was our most fun learning experience. It doesn't have to be in school, it doesn't have to be in a classroom, but what made it fun and how did we learn? So we had conversations about our different styles of learning, where we feel best learning. And funny enough, we found out that a lot of these collaborative spaces in these flexible furnishings are stuff that we typically have sometimes in our workplace, because school is preparing us for the workforce, right? I think it's also important to have that connection, because we are preparing students to not only be successful citizens, but also to be bread earners for their families, to take care of their families. I believe these sessions were awesome. I believe that we had great participation. I only attended the first night, but I was keeping my eyes out on everybody who was attending the second and third, because this is work that, we've been kind of working on for the past almost 2 years since the commencement of this committee. So it was really exciting to see our work kind of triculate to this point. And now that we're actually entering the first phase of actually talking and having discussions with our board members, our committee members, and our community and students about exactly what are we going to be moving forward to. So I think they went really successful. So thank you to everybody who came. And thank you, Dr. Chapman and Dr. Pierce, who also allowed me to provide a welcoming statement our first night. So I just want to make sure that the community knows that we have been working on this, I would say, religiously over the past couple years. And we're now, we're hitting the ground running. So thank you.
I'll just add, I also appreciated the collaborative nature of our kind of table talk. We actually were at the same table. And I will say maybe the disconnect for folks was that I think what was articulated on the flyer, I think was different than the experience there was. So if you came in thinking that it was a lot more comprehensive and holistic, right? So my table, we talked about classroom schedules and bell sounds and kind of moving folks around, like those logistics. So if you came in thinking maybe that you were directly going to give feedback about, designing the classroom spaces of the future, maybe it wasn't totally what you expected. But I think there was a lot of value in the comprehensive nature. So every table talked about something a little bit different and kind of all feeds into this bigger picture. But I can see how folks maybe were expecting one thing based on how it was advertised, and maybe when you came, it's like, oh, this is a little bit different, but still very valuable. And just loved hearing the different things and thoughts that the different groups came up with.
Kevin, do you want to share?
Well, for me, just because my mind works way different than most people, I like to see like a continuum. Where are we in this continuum? Because I came into that thinking I was going to have some type of takeaway to say, hey, all these things are going to be elements that we want in a new school. Not realizing until about the end that we're just in step one over here. So for me, in my mind, it would have been nice to have the continuum say, hey, we are gonna do this as an objective of this session.
That's good.
But I really enjoyed having all the different tables report out to hear the diversity that everybody brought to the table in the room, and I thought that was fantastic. A lot of things that most people wouldn't think of, and that was fantastic.
Any other thoughts, Dr. Pierce?
I think as we think about the process, one thing that is important to center is this work has been long started before this committee. In 2015, with our FMP process, a number of community members and students who are now graduates and alumni, Jen and I, have been at this table for quite a long time. And so what I will say is that this is work that always continues. As a district, we should always be building new buildings and maintaining our properties in such a way that we are offering very modern spaces for our students, staff, and families. And so I am hopeful that with this new process, it will set a new tone and tenor for our district, that we should be having these conversations on a very ongoing basis, and that we should have a plan to, just as we buy new school buses, that every couple of years or so we are building new buildings. I do appreciate the abstract thought process that was put in place in terms of giving individuals the opportunity to really think about all the many ways that we learn and creating those such spaces. And then lastly, I will say that as we continue this work into the community, Chair Dare, I appreciate that we are taking this entire committee to do the work with us. I will publicly give condolences and sympathies on the passing of your family member. Know that you are not doing this work alone. You have board members that are here with you. You have a strong, informed and educated committee that is here with you as well. So I am very hopeful that this work will continue in a very team-led and inclusive manner.
Absolutely, and our hope is actually that some of the students who participated will become ambassadors as well and come out into the community with us and help, with our community, but also engage our younger students, because they're the ones that really are gonna benefit from it. So, so thank you for that. And I think that, again, we're all different learners. And so I think to Kevin's point, it would be good, and part of our community engagement is to kind of do that kind of outline of the steps in the process, because ultimately what this is a very, you guys saw it, it's a very technical document that will be produced. And it does seem strange, like we're over here talking about how do we learn, and then we got to get all the way to the technical document. So point taken, auditor, that we publicly need to kind of show what those steps are, so that our community understands where we are in the process, because in a way it will be fast, but it will be strategic in how we get there. So again, this was just the beginning of it, and we now can kind of take this process that our consultant gave us, and you've experienced, we can tweak it, we can make it our own, we're gonna have more student involvement, and it's something we're gonna be doing and going out as a committee through the fall, and we're gonna have I was talking to Catherine about like even some social media, like how do we, maybe do some videos and have things that you guys can be a part of too on social media. So, so that will be part of our community engagement strategy, which we'll talk more about next meeting. We also are going to, down now to item 4.1. Thank you for the feedback that you all have given. So the survey is going to go out no later than Friday, because we needed to go out so that we can kind of monitor how that's going and make some tweaks if we're not getting enough responses, so that we can make sure we have enough data for us to look at it during our next meeting. So we've talked to the team about that, and so the 3 board members will be kind of making some calls about that. If we don't feel like we have enough data, what we're going to do, we might throw some more simplified questions out on social media or through a different survey to kind of gather more targeted information about those questions that our leadership asked us to answer by June. So look for that, and when it comes out, we'll let you know, and you can help kind of push that link out as well. And then the school visit update, I, again, was not able to attend Worthington. So if any, I'll turn it over back to you, Ms. Mosier, to kind of tell us we went, Alex Trevino helped set that up. Dr. Pierce, I think you, actually, no, that was.
I sent the pictures.
And so thank you to the team for helping us set that up. And it was to kind of go and see what a school in the works being redone was all about.
So special thanks to my colleague Alex Trevino and his department for setting up a visit to Thomas Worthington, where they have Worthington Kilbourne, where they have an active.
It was Thomas
Was it Thomas? Okay.
Yep.
Two notes.
Yes.
To Worthington, to see a facility that is currently under construction. And then there was also a short visit to Upper Arlington High School that reopened recently. So we're trying to find the right time of day and day of the week when it would be most beneficial for the committee to go and make those visits. So we'll collect some information from you and certainly go. We should do at least one more visit. I don't know if there's anyone at the table who made either of those visits.
I made it to the Thomas. I don't think the Upper Arlington one made it to us, but the Thomas Worthington visit was great because their staff were also, their administrators were available, so they were able to answer our many of questions and just shared a lot about their experience, explain why they did what they did. And also, I think the construction team was great at explaining, like, they wanted a more, it is updated but still traditional in nature. So there were certain things that they wanted, and there are other schools in the area that, maybe had a little bit of a different approach and kind of switched it up a little bit. But it was great to see just kind of their process, hear from them, watch the students walk and transition from, we got there right in between, I don't know what period it was, but it was just, it was cool because the hallways are wide and they were just, it wasn't overly chaotic. They were just, they kind of looked at us a few times and kept it moving, but it was just great and informative, and look forward to being able to be a part of future ones.
And I'll just share for the committee, I have added in pictures from Worthington Kilbourne, who has recently opened their new spaces, which is the cafeteria, the Black Box Theater, which is a smaller, more intimate kind of auditorium off to the back of their bigger auditorium, as well as their auxiliary gyms, weight room, and there was one other, their new media library center. And so those pictures are there. So I think as we move forward, if we're just taking pictures so committee members who aren't able to attend can see those pictures and have that information there, it'll be very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. We are a little bit over, but I appreciate it. Again, next meeting, we are going to have less items because we're going to take a deeper dive into more of the kind of the academic return on some of our Layer 2 programs. And I want to say, I keep saying Layer 2 or 3, and that is a choice. We have a choice about where to put them. So Layer 2 programs are going to be the ones that our community is like, no, you must have. Like, the non-negotiable. This is a community value. This is Columbus City Schools. This is, you will figure out how to pay for that. We will all figure out how to pay for it and do it. Layer 3 are programs that we love. They might not serve a lot of kids. They might not be the thing we need now. They might be, and so we kind of have to figure out where we're putting them. And that's a discussion that is part of just how we reform our academic program and make sure that we are providing the best educational services for our community. But it will also be a budget discussion as we will start to move into the fall with our ETRM committee around these choices that we have to make as a community. So we're going to kind of merge those as we kind of come back after summer break to start kind of that discussion too. Because again, academics should drive the facilities, and then we figure out how we pay for it. All right, well.
Two quick requests before we, two quick requests. So first one is, can we send the updated survey before it goes out this Friday? I haven't seen the
we can
final updated one.
Sure.
And then make sure that you send who we're sending our feedback on the flyers to and by what due date.
Can we just, I'll do that. Everybody send comments to Carl.
Okay.
Get them to the right people, because it's just too many people involved. And then if we can do that by next week, we'll give it a week.
The
So
20th?
next Wednesday, which is May, what?
20th?
20th.
Is it the 20th?
Yes, it is.
6 p.m.?
So we'll do that by next week, and then
Gotcha.
that'll be great. Perfect. Mr. Kennedy, Dr. Kennedy.
I was going
That was
to
it?
bring up the feedback.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Did you have something first?
Oh,
You
did
look like
you?
you were saying something.
As we close, I just want to make sure that we end by hearing the voice of a student. Trinity is a student. She's on the video screen. She's submitted a video. She will be just fine if we close the meeting while she's talking. We'll get the link out, but I hope that we can hear her.
Absolutely, you're right. I'm
Yes.
sorry. This is
Okay.
important. She went through one of the visioning sessions, and this is her reaction to that. So this is
Awesome.
incredibly important.
Okay,
We got a couple minutes.
let's go.
This is
Hi
Trinity.
everyone, my name is Trinity, and I am doing a little Q&A about the envisioning program that we did at Centennial High School. It was a really, really nice connecting event between the students, being able to learn about different topics. And the topic that my group specifically discussed was about technology. So that being the first question, what was one conversation or activity from the workshop that really stuck with you and why? Basically, we were handed a sheet of paper where we picked from different topics that are occurring in the world right now, and one of them was technology, and that's what my group did. And the conversation that really resonated with me is how technology has been affecting a lot of students. I would say the conversation about how technology is really affecting students and teachers nowadays is a conversation that really resonated with me. This question, or my answer, also answers the second question, which is the workshop talked a lot about how students learn differently. Did anything about that discussion connect to you or your own experience as a student? Way because of how technology is becoming a lot more different now, and how it's really changed the game with how students are connecting with their teachers and how teachers are connecting with their students, because everything is a lot more suspicious now. If a student were to write an essay or even doing just regular assignments day to day now, people just take their phones, click, and just like that, their assignments are done. They don't have to worry about it, which really is a disengaging factor in terms of education. And I'm thinking back, even though I'm not that old, but I'm thinking about the times when I was in elementary school and how certain things were taken out of the curriculum. I think when I was in third grade, cursive was taken out of the curriculum. And now I have to kind of just learn that on my own or through my mom, just with technology and stuff. So I just think that while technology is a factor that can and a tool that can be utilized, it's also something that deserves a little bit more security in terms of making sure students are actually being engaged in what they're doing in schools.
She has about two more minutes, so we'll make sure that you get the full video. But thank you for allowing me to bring Trinity to the meeting.
When will we get the final report on, a write-up on all 3 sessions?
She has a summary, don't you?
We have a short summary.
Has that been shared?
Yeah, she's going to give it outright to us now, but we will also, as we continue to do, we'll build data, and add that to the data that we already have that Alex talked to us about before, because a lot of this, again, we know through the facility master planning process and things we saw in the video that we looked at Elko Kenwood, you know, just things like natural light and the flexibility. I mean, things we keep hearing, that's not new information, like we know that. So we'll get like a true data sheet about, you know, what we're hearing and all of that as well. All right, there was a motion and a second.